Welcome to another episode of the POLITalks TAMUSA podcast. This is a podcast of the political science program, part of the Department of Criminology and Political Science at Texas A&M University, San Antonio. And I'm delighted to have as guest today my colleague from the Department of Criminology and Political Science, Robert Alonzo. It's a delight because his profile, as you will discover, and his experience is basically at the intersection of these two sub-fields, or basically two fields that compose our department, criminology and political science. So we will delve into some of these aspects, especially into his experience working for the FBI before coming to the academia, and his experience in the investigations surrounding 9/11. So, as I said, criminology and political science meeting happily. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
So, let's start with the beginning. I always want to help our listeners or our viewers learn about our guests, both from their professional experience and their endeavors, but also their personal dimension, so to speak. Because, as I like to say, academics are also human beings, which at first sight might not be very evident. So let's start with the personal dimension and learn something about your background. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in San Antonio, south side of San Antonio. Went to school at St. Henry's Catholic Church on South Flores and Nogalitos. Went to La Salle High School for 1 year, which was on the corner of Southwest Military and Zarzamora. And then I went to Jefferson High School. Graduated from Jefferson in '67 and went to St. Mary's University right after that.
Mm-hmm. St. Mary's University, where is that?
That's on the west side of town, near the corner of Woodlawn and Cincinnati. Nice area, old area.
Yeah,
older area.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And you went there for a degree in?
I went there for a degree. Initially, I was majoring in physical education and sociology. And after 2 years, I left, came back 4 years later, and got my degree in accounting.
Mm-hmm. So that's very interesting also, and it's going to connect with what we're going to talk about later, because you're going to use this degree and formation in accounting in your next endeavors, and I think that's very interesting for our listeners, and especially, let's say, for the students, to see how you can combine different experiences and different formations for whatever purposes. Okay, so you went to school there, you went to university at St. Mary's, and then did you join the military?
Yes, in 1970 I joined the military. I was in school at St. Mary's for 2 years, 67, 68, 68, 69, and then I got into the U.S. Army Reserves, started a family, was in the reserves till 1976, and I realized a couple of years that, okay, I've got a family going, I need to go back and finish my education. And I did, and that's when I went back and majored in accounting. And I graduated in 1975, I believe, and I went to work for a large international accounting firm, and my accounting career took off from that point.
So clearly you've had a sort of an inclination to joining institutions that have to do with law and order and so on. I mean, first the military, then it will be the FBI and so on, the State Guard, and
Yes.
so on. Was this something that you already were attracted to? What is the impulse?
Well, in high school, I was in the ROTC program.
Yeah.
And I was a drill team commander my senior year at Jefferson High School. When I went to St. Mary's University, I was part of the Marion Guard, which is a very elite drill team, and we combined drill team commanders and executives at that school into one unit. And during '68, '69, we went all over the country winning competitions in drill teams. So I was kind of military focused. I enjoyed being in the Army Reserves, got out in '76. And accounting was critical because I knew that if you learn accounting, it's the lifeblood of business, and I knew then that I would always have a good job to raise a good family.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the inclination at that time.
And you always lived in San Antonio. You were never drawn to or pushed to move somewhere else besides some assignments.
No, it was strictly here in San Antonio until I got in the FBI.
Yeah.
Then I moved around a little.
Of course.
Yes.
And so your family's roots are also here in San Antonio?
Yes, absolutely. Here and in South Texas, in Zapata County. That's where my mom is from. And we have a big ranch down there, and a lot of history, a lot of family there that we could get into as well.
Yes, yes. You got out of the army, completed your education, worked in accounting, and then you ended up, you also, when did you move to work for the Department of Defense? Again, the same line of duty. Of duty.
Sure. I kind of wanted to go out on my own, because after I was working for Alexander Grant, which is a big accounting firm back then, I went to work for another regional accounting firm, and then from there went to work as a controller of a small manufacturing company in Helotes. And at that point I thought, you know, I think I'd like to give this a try on my own. So I went out, I had a small tax practice and a management advisory service practice in accounting. And I was also a partner in a retail store called Soccer Scene in Leon Valley. I was very involved in soccer at the time. I refereed soccer for 18 years. I coached the St. Mary's University men's varsity team in the mid-'80s when I was an adjunct at the same time. So I had a business in Leon Valley. I was teaching adjunct at St. Mary's, and I was the coach for the soccer team while doing a tax practice. So my 30s are kind of a blur. They just kind of, but I survived.
In all the good ways, yeah.
In all good ways, yes. Then in '88, I had a change, and I decided to try out for, or to apply for government work, and I did. I became a
How old were you then, in '88?
Gosh.
Approximately.
Let me see. In '88, I believe I was about 40.
That's also an important thing, because you did change course, you did sort of move directions, move jobs at various points in life, at which other people would not change jobs, to be honest. And I think that's also a good sort of point to make and to observe, because one's path in life or successful life, it's not linear. And I always encourage my students to pursue what they really like to do, and because if you like it, you can also be successful in it. And it won't be necessarily linear, and don't be afraid of that. And I think that's one of those examples.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I was 39 or 40 at the time, and I became an inventory manager for the Department of Defense in the airport, at the Air Force.
But how did you stumble into it? Was it like, okay, where do I go? Defense, are they hiring, or how did you?
Yes, my brother-in-law was a branch chief for the Air Force at the time, and he said, Bob, they're hiring inventory managers. Well, I had a good background in accounting. I was a CPA at the time, so I thought, sure, I'll apply for that, and I did. Again, looking at it from a defense standpoint, and I did very well there. I stayed there for about 10 years, and then I moved over to another Department of Defense area as a systems accountant and an auditor. And then I traveled quite a bit doing TDYs, conducting audits for this one particular agency in the west and midwest of the U.S. And then one day there was an announcement, USAjobs.gov for a financial analyst for the FBI. So I thought, well, I've got a wealth of experience. And one thing about the FBI that I'll tell you, Eugen, is that they want people that bring something to the table. Well, I had a lot of experience in that area. So I applied, and 11 months later, I was hired.
It takes a while for them to do background checks and everything.
Because of my travel, the leads are sent out to the areas where you travel just to ensure that there's no issues.
Having lived in D.C., if you live there, you know so many people who work for the government, and also you get to meet people who do background checks because your neighbor is applying for a job in the government. So it's inevitable that you will learn about these things. So again, I want to point out sort of a recurring theme sort of in your trajectory, because you were an adjunct while also working for a CPA, then you work for the military. These things have happened several times in your life, these areas of life. So nothing is by chance. Clearly there was an inclination towards teaching, there was an inclination towards service, and it has always been with you.
Yes, in fact, I got the teaching bug in the mid-'80s when I was teaching at St. Mary's University as an adjunct in accounting, and I really enjoyed it. And I knew at that point that eventually I was going to come back into academia when I retired from whatever I was doing.
What was the bug? What was the shape and smell of the bug?
I think I just enjoyed giving back. The accounting, because I had experience in accounting, I was able to let them know what it's like out there when you're an accountant, when you're a CPA, when you're a certified fraud examiner.
Yeah.
So, and I got a good feeling from the students about that.
Yeah.
I got a good feeling from them that I was really teaching them something.
That they really learned something.
Yeah.
That is useful.
And,
Yeah.
and the way I teach now, and I'm sure you know about this, is we teach here how to let students know when they leave here, this is what it's going to be like.
Exactly.
You're going to learn the
Yeah.
book stuff, but I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
what it's like when you get out.
And that's another sort of recurring sort of aspect from your profile is this idea of help teaching practice, basically, of teaching them for real life, teaching them for basically jumping right into the deep waters.
Yes.
And that's I think a very valuable asset to have that experience and to also have the capacity and inclination to teach it.
Yes, and to want to teach it,
Yeah.
to let them know this is what it's like out there.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you the number of responses, emails that I've gotten from students who are out there saying,
Yeah.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you so
Even
much.
years after. Yeah.
Years after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Years after.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
It's
can
very,
relate.
very rewarding.
I can relate.
So it still lets me know that I'm still doing it right.
Yeah, I'm on the right track. So so were you looking for a job because you were on USA.gov? What were you doing on the website? I mean, were you just generally browsing for opportunities, or?
Yeah, I think I had reached a point in that particular agency where, okay, I'm not going anywhere.
There you go.
I still have more to give. And all of a sudden, I see this ad for the FBI financial analyst, and I thought, why not apply?
Yeah.
And I did.
And here's the juncture that I think it's very important because it's also useful for our listeners and viewers respectively. How does one get into the FBI?
Well, back then, the application was like 16 or 17 pages that you had to fill out manually and turn in. Today, it's all online.
Of course, yeah.
It's quick, it's simple. But back then,
But not short either, still.
Not short. No, not short at all. And it just, the process was long, and I thought, well, I've got a good job, so there's no reason why not to apply.
Yeah.
I had a wealth of experience behind me that I thought I could bring to the table, and I think that's what it was that did it. In fact, I still remember my last interview with one of the ASACs. And
What's an ASAC?
an assistant special agent in charge of,
Okay.
the division, FBI division here in San Antonio. And I'll never forget this because I'd done a lot of TDYs. And he said, Bob, are you adverse to TDYs? I said, no, sir. Temporary duties,
Okay.
where you go a couple of weeks. I said,
Yeah.
no, sir. I do it all the time. I've traveled all over the West and Southwest, and I've done audits. So, no, TDYs are not a problem. He says, okay. He says, are you adverse to extended TDYs? And I said, no, sir. There's times when you don't get the work done. You have to stay over.
Sure.
So you do.
Sure.
You make time for it, and you prioritize, and you do it. He says, okay, one more question. He said, are you adverse to extended TDYs in third world countries?
I'm glad he didn't say infinite TDIs because.
And I said, no, sir, not at all. And I thought, and I'm thinking, he's thinking, I'm hiring this guy.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's
Because
good.
TDYs are, they're part of the bureau life.
Of course, of course.
Absolutely.
This actually, I think we need to clarify what the FBI is, because it's one of those expressions, one of those things. It's like, oh, the President of the United States. But actually, if you look into it, many people don't know what the President actually does or Congress actually does. There's all kinds of names with all kinds of sort of reverberations in the mind of the people, and people think, like, oh, the FBI probably is sort of a super police of some sort. Can you introduce the FBI to our viewers very briefly?
The FBI is, of course, the most elite, up-to-date law enforcement agency in the U.S. It's not a national police force. It operates under the guise of the Department of Justice.
It's the federal level police.
It's the federal level,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And it handles strictly federal-type crimes. Our jurisdiction is any U.S. interest, whether it's here or out of our borders.
And I think this is the important part, because again, it's looked at as the a sort of a super police in the sense of, I don't know in what sense, but it's very important to understand that in this federal system of government, each level of government has its own jurisdiction, right?
Yes.
And the state government makes laws for most of our life, actually, and that's the enforcement of that falls under the institutions of the state government, including the state, county, local police force, and so on, and prosecution. And federal law actually governs very little of the regular citizen's life. surprisingly, and contrary to what many people think, federal law doesn't cover much of our lives in what the Constitution gives to the federal law. But since there is federal law, someone needs to enforce it, and someone needs to research crimes against that break federal law. And that's what the FBI basically does. That's what the Department of Justice does at the federal level. So it deals with the federal level of your life, which is not extensive, it's very specific, and that's what I would say, and very peculiar.
There are approximately 25,000 jurisdictions in the U.S. alone. Many of them are subject-based, and many of them are geographic-based.
Yeah.
So the FBI does not get involved in a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Unless it's constitutional issues.
Exactly, a federal level thing. Yeah.
And certain types of crimes we get involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's and the rank and file they're outstanding people. That's what I miss the most about the Bureau, is the people. I loved working with them.
Mm-hmm.
First-rate people.
Yeah, and the other part that is interesting is what you mentioned in terms of the fact that they are looking for people that bring something to the FBI, because again, something that at first sight would not seem evident is that law enforcement has so many aspects. For example, the accounting, the financial aspect, right, which is not the glamorous part at first sight. It actually goes to the heart of crime and to prosecution and so on. So you brought a skill set that they could immediately apply, and I think it's important, for example, for students to think about, okay, I want to get a degree in, let's say, criminology or political science, but I can combine it with something else, like a degree in IT or something, because those skills I can use them in the criminology area and so on.
You mentioned the skill. The Bureau, normally, we don't hire agents right out of college. It doesn't happen. In fact, I think the average age of an agent coming in is around 30.
That's surprising.
Because they've got some permanence in a job, and the Bureau's not going to spend $1 million training you only for you to leave in a couple of years because you haven't figured it out yet. So they're hiring people that have got some skill, what can you bring to the table? And I think my background was very instrumental in that because it was so varied, including academia. Became a certified instructor for the Bureau and other areas, evidence response team. I worked White Collar Crime Squad, Foreign Counterintelligence Squad, Joint Terrorism Task Force, evidence response, many different areas that, past experiences bring. So I tell my students this. I say, look, everyone's going to be the same, good grades, graduate. What makes you stand out? What on your resume is going to make you stand out? Get a skill of something that's going to say, you know what, I want to talk to that individual. Everything is going cyber, and I urge people and my students, get in your free time, when you have free time, get a certification, something in cyber, so that sticks out in the resume, because everything is going that way.
And I think it's also a good idea to sort of be creative also, in the sense of, hey, I have this experience, how can I create with this a package that is appealing to wherever I want to work, FBI, CIA. And I emphasize this because I've had students who are thinking, well, I would like to work for FBI or CIA, and again, but for them it seems like such a remote possibility. This is, I think it's important to understand that it's just a process, where you also play a role in making sure that you present what you have done as assets, right? And that you put them, you value them, and you sell them, so to speak, to the employer. So you worked, you entered in 1999.
Yes, sir.
And you worked here in San Antonio.
Yes, primarily here in San Antonio.
Does the FBI have offices in every major city?
We have 56 field offices in the United States. And then areas like San Antonio's district, the FBI field office here covers from Waco to the Valley. And then Houston has a certain area, Dallas has a certain area, El Paso has a certain area. So there's 56
investigating federal crimes in this area.
That's correct. And our evidence response team, which I'm very proud of, that group is outstanding. We assist any law enforcement agency with evidence recovery and response, because training is critical in that. And those skills in evidence response are perishable. If you don't practice them, they go away. So we're willing to assist any law enforcement agency with evidence response.
So besides doing the actual job of the FBI also, which is again enforcing federal law, the FBI also offers their skills as a resource to local law enforcement.
It's collateral duty, and we do it whoever needs us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But that's also an interesting part, which kind of ties into the role of the interaction between federal government and state government, because the federal government, as I said, constitutionally has not many powers, but it has resources,
Yes.
and because it has so many resources, it becomes important for the state government.
Sure.
So it's the same with the FBI, all the training, all the resources, all the specialization, which the local law enforcement could not have,
Exactly.
they can bring to the
Exactly.
fore and to
We
help them.
assist in any way we can.
So you were there exactly when almost 25 years ago 9/11 happened. Meaning not there, but in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Let's go to that day. What were you doing when this happened?
I give a presentation to my classes every semester about 9/11. That day is very near and dear to my heart.
Of course.
Because of the friends I made,
Yeah.
the people, the contacts I made, places where I went. But I was walking by my supervisor's office, and every supervisor has a television back then on the news station just to keep current with stuff. And I'm walking by, and I see these two towers that are, or this one tower that's burning, there's smoke.
Yeah.
And many, many years ago with another CPA, he was a pilot, flight instructor. And we used to do aerobatics in a small biplane north of San Antonio, way
Yeah.
back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And my first inclination was a little plane has hit that building.
Yes.
Because that happens
Yes.
seldom, but it happens.
Yes.
So I walked into his office, and then I see that other plane coming. And I thought, okay, something's on. So by that afternoon, we were already working, looking at pilots' files to see if we could connect anything that we could, anything. The next day, my boss came in and said, Bob, pack your bags, you're going to D.C. So shortly thereafter, I was making my way to D.C. And that took me straight to FBI headquarters.
What was the sort of the emotional reaction, the state of the people working in the local FBI office, witnessing that? How did they live through those moments, that day?
Well, I must tell you that I was gone shortly thereafter, but of course everybody was kind of in a state of shock, like, okay, get ready, we're going to do something, it's coming. We're going to have to be on our best behavior and do our best work because we're going to be tasked with who knows what.
Exactly.
And every office was tasked with something. In fact,
So basically high alert readiness.
absolutely, no question about it. You're on 24 alert anyway, 24 hours. Even though you work maybe whatever hours, you're always on call.
Yeah.
And what was interesting was that almost every evidence response team from the 56 field offices assisted in the 9/11 ground zero
Investigation.
and going through rubble, etc.
Yeah.
Almost every evidence response team did that.
But they needed manpower, first of all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you were called to DC. Why you?
The office immediately at the headquarters, they formed what's called a terrorist financing operation, TFO, and they called 50 agents and 50 analysts from all over the U.S. We convened at FBI headquarters, and we literally created a terrorist finance operations center in a room about 10 times this size, and it was empty. And when we got there, we brought in whatever was needed to run on, do a background on whoever was involved in this. Tables, chairs, computers, laptops, you name it, fax machines, we brought them in there. And that started the TFOS.
Yeah. There's a scene in the movie, there's a movie about the Boston bombing. Actually, I never remember the name of the movie. It's with Mark Wahlberg. And
Patriots Day or something
Patriots Day,
like that.
yeah.
Yes.
And they described the exact process when the whole team was formed.
Yes.
They found an empty hall, and literally they
That's
packed everything.
exactly what we did. That's exact. And it was a huge building, room in our headquarters. And within a day, boom, we're working. We are working.
Yeah, day and night, basically.
Absolutely.
And again, this goes right to the heart of the thing, the importance of the financial dimension to crime, basically,
Sure.
nowadays.
Sure.
To any crime, not just terrorism, but terrorism especially.
Given the fact that these 19 individuals lived here amongst us, where were they getting their support? That was our first priority.
The training,
Who's supporting it?
yeah.
Who's supporting
Yeah,
them? Let's
yeah,
find it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we did.
Yeah. And again, that goes to, okay, I wouldn't think that my background would apply for that. Well, don't be so sure.
That's right.
Because there's so many
exactly
backgrounds
right.
that can be used for you know, you also have to be creative to sell your background, so to speak. So you went to DC and worked in this intensive task force. Was this an interagency task force or just FBI?
No, at this time it was just there at FBI headquarters. And then about 2 months later, a month and a half later, I was stationed to CIA headquarters Langley. And I stayed there for about a month, and we trained with different agencies, and a task force was formed, a multi-federal agency task force, and we were sent to the Middle East.
Have you completed your previous task by that time? So now you moved on to a different task, or some of you were sent to this interagency
It was
thing?
all under the same umbrella of terrorist financing.
Okay.
Okay, all terrorist financing.
But now it moved to an interagency dimension.
Yes, absolutely.
Why did it have to move to an interagency dimension?
I think because the State Department, who of course was running the embassies at the time, they have the contacts with all the different individuals who run that country.
Yeah.
And we were able to go in with them and say, okay, this is what we're looking for.
Okay.
Tell us what your procedures are. There may be terrorist financing that we just need to look into, etc.
So you were immediately sent abroad, all of you, or some part of you, basically?
No, that team went together as one unit
to Kuwait?
To the Middle East.
Or
yes,
just to
Kuwait.
Middle East in general? Yeah,
To
Kuwait.
Kuwait.
Kuwait being a friendly country and a good
Yes.
base, yeah. But you basically were doing the work throughout the Middle East.
That's correct. That was being done. There was other teams going to Saudi and other countries doing the same thing.
So you were working just in Kuwait, basically?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
So that's interesting, right? You're going to a foreign country, a different legal system, a whole different political system, a different everything. So have you done that before?
That was the first time I'd done that.
So what have you learned from that experience from the point of view of working in a different legal system, in a different society, a different everything, and trying to do a job of a different government? Because, again, the world is divided into spaces of independent sovereignty, and you can't just go into a different country and investigate.
Exactly.
You need to do it through the locals, and there's again, references to the media. There's this movie called The Kingdom with Jamie Foxx, and that's exactly what they do. There's a bombing, and they form a task, and they go there, and they describe all these difficulties. So what was your experiences? What were the greatest challenges, and what have you learned from that experience?
We were following the lead of the State Department, without a doubt.
Because they're the representatives of the U.S. state.
They're the ones
there.
that already have the inroads to all these different ministers.
Yeah.
Finance, security, defense, auditing, you name it.
Yeah.
So our questions were directed to those ministers through the State Department individuals. And of course, we're taking notes, we're gathering intelligence to submit our reports back.
So were you gathering the intelligence through the local authorities or directly?
Through the State Department, communicating with the different ministers.
Okay.
So, and it wasn't, it wasn't back then. Again,
Yeah.
we're talking 2001.
Which seems a long time ago, not for me.
It was more of a communication and cooperation between
Okay.
State Department with us gathering the intel as to
Yeah.
what they were discussing, and then those countries saying, sure, this is what we have.
Okay.
And again, it had to deal mainly with terrorist financing, and that was our goal, was to, is it happening? Where is it happening? How is it happening?
Yeah.
And how can we assist? And then, of course, we report back to the State Department, which reports back to the actual State Department in the U.S.
Yeah. So when you found something that was of interest, could you request more information or push for more? Okay, well, this is an avenue of investigation. Could you, again, passing it through the State Department to the respective ministry in the given country, could you ask for more information? Could you push the investigation indirectly in that sense?
Everything we asked for was provided, and again, it went through the State Department. We analyzed what we could and handed it to the State Department, and that they handled it from that point on. Our mission was there to gather intelligence, processing and analyze, provide it to the State Department, and they would send it back. Because at the time there was multiple task forces.
For sure.
And different, especially State Department, working on the 9/11 issue from a 30,000-foot view. We're just one little cog.
Exactly. And that's part of what we study in political science, part of what we call, when you analyze bureaucracy, it's called the interagency conflict, which is not necessarily a conflict, but it's basically the fact that you have to go through so many different institutions need to do the same job, and each institution has its own hierarchy, its own modus operandi, its own ideas about what things are and how they need to be done. So there's, it's like, that game when you whisper to someone's ear and another ear and another ear, what gets back, I don't know. So have you encountered issues with this sort of a transmission of the information or this whole process in terms of making sure that what you have discovered gets to where it should go?
No, we never had any issues with that. Again, because everything that we obtained went back to the State Department, and then they routed it to sift through it and analyze their methods or their next step as to what they were going to do with it. So
yeah, but it wasn't the State Department who investigated 9/11. So how they would then have to transmit the information to other agencies?
This particular group, this task force, we were told this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to ask for it, and whatever we have goes to state, and then they run with it. So this is strictly an multi-federal agency task force, but
serving the State Department.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And I was part of it.
Which helps that you know where it's going.
So there was different agencies involved.
Yeah, but they all served one purpose, one master, so to speak.
That's correct.
That helps, because if it has to go to different sources, then it becomes a whole other adventure. So you weren't involved in ground investigation or direct investigation. You were just analyzing.
Strictly to the ministers, and whatever information we got from them, we would analyze.
How long did this take? This TDI?
This TDY took less than a month.
Okay.
It was less than a month.
Yeah. And then what happened then?
Then I went back to CIA headquarters, continued to work there for a couple of months. Then I was sent back to FBI headquarters, worked there another month, and then sent back to San Antonio. And when I got back to San Antonio, I provided some presentations to financial institutions, generally in the southwest part of the U.S., about the terrorist financing that we had uncovered, and the triggers, the things that we found out how they were receiving their money, even from groups here in the United States that was terrorist financing.
So that they would be aware to notice that.
Absolutely.
That matters.
One thing, it wasn't unusual for Middle Eastern individuals to be in this country at that time.
Of course,
Not at all.
Yeah.
So these are just things.
And sending money abroad and back, that's normal.
There was nothing back then. There was nothing. Wire transfers constantly.
Sure. So you came back, and then what was your role next in the FBI
I
here?
went back to becoming a financial analyst, and then I think I was put on the Foreign Counterintelligence Squad and the Joint Terrorism Task Force because of the experience that I'd gotten.
And what's that?
The Terrorism Task Force is it's a multi-agency task force.
But here
in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Every division has got a terrorism task force.
Now.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, they were created at that time. And there's gang task forces and other types.
Yeah, but so suddenly terrorism became the overarching priority. Yeah.
And we have people there from the different military forces, Air Force, OSI, Army Intelligence, Naval Intelligence, and then FBI. We had IRS involved, different federal agencies on this terrorism task force. Because whenever we needed something, let's say tax records, we could go to the IRS. If we need information from some military issue, we could go to OSI Air Force or the Army Intel.
Yeah.
So it was a good task force.
Who would lead such task forces that are interagency? Would be like a designated person from one of the agencies? It was
led from the FBI.
Okay.
So the FBI, ASAC, was generally in charge of that task force, or the squad leader for that task force. They would run that.
Yeah, because that's also always a question of jurisdiction and who's
Sure.
who's the tallest guy in the room and so on. So from this experience, what is because you came back and then you shared what you've learned with the local institutions, and you obviously used it in your next lines of work. What is the biggest sort of takeaway from what you've learned in terms of the financial component of terrorism?
What we learned was that the terrorist financing let's say, links were everywhere. It wasn't just coming from one place.
Not one person, one sponsor, and so on.
There was multiple financing individuals who assisted, organizations that assisted, some NGOs, non-governmental organizations assisted, some that were in the U.S. were assisting
in the U.S.
Yes. There were some hawala dealers who had a business front, but they were actually hawala dealers who were assisting terrorist financing. that's what we learned, and we cracked down on that as much as we could.
So how about the legal framework? Did we at that point have the necessary legal framework to do all this work, or did some legal frameworks, were some legal frameworks created afterwards as a result of these experiences?
Well, I think the Patriot Act, is it the
Yeah.
Patriot Act?
Yeah, yeah. But that was a huge, gigantic piece of legislation.
That put a lot of teeth in how investigations were done, how evidence was collected, different ways to gather evidence, gather intelligence. That was created for that purpose because, I mean, 9/11 happened and almost 3,000 people were killed. And
nobody was ready, so to speak.
Yeah, nobody was ready. It was an atypical form of war.
Yeah.
I tell my students the gloves came off. I mean, we'd just been attacked. There was kind of like no holds barred. We're going to find out about this. And it was made pretty clear by President Bush that if you're assisting the terrorists in any way, you are a terrorist.
Part of the problem, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of countries took note of that. Like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
Yeah.
And what's he talking about?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, yeah, and from your work, as you said, you discovered all kinds of ways in which this is this financing is done. So your impression is then that at this point we are much much more attentive, much more ready to detect such networks and so on.
yes, absolutely, no question about it. Law enforcement changed with 9/11.
Law enforcement in general.
In general, because the normal police forces, PDs, their job is to serve and protect. Well, all of a sudden they realized, well, these 19 individuals lived amongst us and they were like us, so our eyes have to kind of refocus, like what else is out there instead of just serving and protecting.
Just
So-
sort of local crime, as it were. Yeah,
Sure,
yeah. Which is
so
yeah.
it changed a lot, and a lot of money was provided for assisting PDs with what to look for. What are the
Yeah.
signs that may,
the tools, the skills, and so
Sure.
on.
And a lot of money was thrown. There's different programs where
Mhm.
different PDs and grants were given
Yeah.
to different organizations to assist
Mhm.
their officers. And okay, this is what you want to maybe look for as well,
Mhm.
because these
Mhm.
individuals lived amongst us.
Mhm. So now stepping back sort of and looking at this whole issue in a broader perspective, when you, where are we now versus 9/11 in your opinion? We know what happened. I mean, there's so many documentaries, books. There's the 9/11 Commission on the events and so on, the volume that they produced, which I think is the sort of a primary source, the best source in many ways, to know what happened that day in detail and so on. It's also very readable. And then there was a military intervention, which was separate from the legal prosecution, yeah, which is very interesting to also distinguish between these things, because it's not the same thing. The military response, the legal response, yeah, the intelligence response, yeah. Okay, and that happened. Then we went into Afghanistan, we went into Iraq, which was not related, but that also happened. Is 9/11 closed? Have we closed that book? Are we still working on it? Or are there still things going on?
9/11 taught us what to look for or what to expect. Is it over? No. As we speak, the masterminds of 9/11 are still in Guantanamo Bay awaiting trial. 24 years later, they're still awaiting trial. There's one reporter from the New York Times, Carol Rosenberg. She stays current with this as of just the other day. She tells you exactly what's current with that process. There was controversy when the Obama administration was in, because these individuals, these terrorists, are they federal criminals or are they prisoners of war? If you remember, President Bush declared war on terrorism, not a state, but on a terrorism.
Yeah.
So,
which is a very vague notion, and it's not a legal notion.
And again, as I mentioned earlier, it was very political. The gloves came off, and we didn't bring any of the terrorists to the U.S. They were put in Guantanamo Bay.
As enemy combatants,
as enemy combatants, as prisoners of war.
Well, not prisoners of war. That's the difference.
Okay.
At that point.
Combatants.
At that point, yeah.
And there was very political back then. I mean, it went through 3 or 4 administrations, still
figuring out
how are we going to try this.
But that's the point. Is it war? Is it law
it
enforcement?
federal crime?
Yeah, exactly. Is it prosecution? Because they're not the same thing, and you don't behave the same way. If it's war, then they're prisoners of war. If it's law enforcement, then there is a legal proceedings.
Exactly.
They're not citizens. How do you deal with that? But still, they have rights, and there's a process, and that's very complex.
That's the key word, is they have rights. Had those prisoners, and I'm not an attorney, had they been sent here to a prison here, they would have had rights that you and I have if we're in a prison.
Yeah.
Well, is it politically, was it a political move to keep them off of U.S. soil?
Yeah, of course.
And
yeah.
keep them there? Sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was a political issue.
yeah. But that doesn't help in terms of, and that's the complexity of these things, because we're, all the whole legal system, the entire political system is meant to sort of create an order in society, sort of give a semblance of order to existence.
Yes.
But then such things happen which kind of throw everything literally in the air, literally and figuratively, because how do you fit such an event into one box? Is this war? Is this law enforcement?
Exactly.
And it's probably both and more than that. And it's intelligence and so on.
Yes. And like I tell my students too, criminal justice is political. Depending on the administration, it's going to go one way or the other. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
It's political.
Political institutions are populated by human beings.
Yeah.
So then that will always have its impact.
Yes.
The position gets its taste, its nature by whoever inhabits it, for sure. Before we go further, working with colleagues from different agencies, what have you learned about the differences between the different agencies? So, for example, FBI versus state versus, the Pentagon versus CIA.
What I've learned since then is that agencies are very forthcoming with sharing intelligence on issues.
Well, at least nowadays, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the big takeaway from that, was like, we need to share intelligence. What were agencies doing back then? They had to worry about their agency, their budgets,
Funding.
their successes,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And now it's like, we're one big team here, and we need to act that way. And I think since 9/11, that has happened tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more exchanging of information and intelligence.
Yeah, because, you've seen what it means to fail at doing that.
The 9/11 Commission came out and said this was an intelligence failure, not a policy failure.
Because they have been tracking Biden, both the FBI and the CIA, but differently.
There's talk of that, but we definitely share. I'm sure we shared in the past, but
Yeah.
for some reason,
Yeah.
We don't know if anything would have been
Yeah.
different.
And how about the people who work in these agencies? Are they different kinds?
I've been removed for 14 years since I retired.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the first meeting. I went to the CIA headquarters in Langley. I was sitting in the corner with another supervisor, and it was a small conference room, and these young kids started coming in. I'm like, who are these kids? Some really young people who were the minds of the CIA at the time. I was very impressed. I
Very
can
different from the FBI,
Oh
which
my
hires
God.
after, as you said, it needs
very
experience and
different.
so
I'm
on.
sitting
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
like, who are these very young people?
Yeah.
They were the
Fresh
best
from
minds.
Quantico.
They were the best minds. Well, these are CIA.
Yeah.
They were fresh
Oh, yeah,
minds.
fresh from from
Yes.
the farm.
I was the only one, there was only 3 of us there from FBI.
Yeah, fresh from the
Yeah,
farm.
fresh from the farm, and I was like, wow, these are the future analysts. So I was taken aback when I saw, and they were looking like, well, who's that old man in the corner?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So you went came back, continued working in with the
Bureau,
FBI
yeah.
until 2000.
I retired in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. During that time, I was an administrative supervisor. Then I became a supervisor in the field intelligence group. I was a program manager type for the language unit. And interestingly
What's a
enough,
language unit?
the language unit is it's a cadre of linguists, different languages, different cultures,
Yeah.
different subject matter experts in those cultures.
Yeah.
And we literally translate verbatim and summarize wires and things that we have obtained
Yeah.
through warrants,
Mhm.
etc.
That the local office has obtained, or what that you get from other offices requests?
No,
and so on?
it's mainly local,
Yeah.
but at many times we would assist other offices that needed some language interpretation
Yeah.
that we had that maybe they didn't.
They had too much to do, and yeah.
We had
yeah.
Urdu, Pashto, French,
Yeah.
you name it.
And I remember back then it was one of the big issues was we don't have enough people who know these languages.
When 9/11 happened, it's my understanding we had about 1,000 hours of untranscribed Arabic on tape.
Yeah.
Well, after 9/11, all of a sudden we had this tape where Osama bin Laden is talking to these individuals. We had him on tape because we had an Al-Qaeda desk at the time. Well, then it was determined that, yeah, well, we've had this all the time, but we never had enough Arabic analysts because of the background investigations.
Yeah.
You need people that are fluent in the language and know the culture, that know, this is right or this is not right. And we didn't have the manpower to get these people vetted and background and hired.
Yeah, it wasn't a priority either, because it wasn't. Priority was, the Soviet threat before that and so on. We were sort of fresh out of the Cold War and not yet sure what will come next. Well, history has brought the next thing to our table.
That's interesting too, Jürgen, is that this didn't happen in a vacuum. Al-Qaeda had been hammering at us since 1983.
Yeah.
So, again, what agency has the most pull that can attract the most resources to get most of the work done? We don't know what would have happened if we would have had those wires already transcribed and ready to go. We just don't know. But since then, it changed completely.
How much? Because FBI is charged with enforcing federal law and protecting the basically the United States at the federal level. Yeah, the federal level. Whilst the CIA is a Central Intelligence Agency. Because again, not because these are so glamorous, but people tend to just sort of mix them together and sort of think of these as some secret, cloak and dagger something. No, there's institutions with specific jobs. And there's many other acronyms doing other things, like the NHS and so on. But the CIA does intelligence work abroad. It cannot work basically unaccompanied nationally and so on. It can do interagency stuff, but not alone and so on. So they are tasked with the counterintelligence, the foreign-looking investigations and so on, and there are other agencies. So from this perspective, the FBI, I don't know if it changed after 9/11, but how much of what the FBI specifically does is preemptive work, and how much is investigative work? Because those are two different things.
I think since 9/11, the Bureau became more intelligence-oriented.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
As opposed to just being a law enforcement, for all U.S. interests. And I believe at one point Congress wanted to, let's do away with this, or let's change the Bureau. And the Bureau said, no, we can do both. And they are doing it. They've done it since 9/11. They've done it incredibly well, I think. Again, I've been removed for 14 years, and I know that it's only gotten better. I still keep in touch with individuals with the Bureau. But it changed, and our focus was not on law enforcement, but intelligence as well.
Yeah. So basically, in many ways, counterintelligence. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, we provide intel for whoever needs it, other agencies, CIA and all the other agencies.
Which meant that the FBI also had to kind of restructure its own institutional structure to kind of fit the new priorities.
Yep.
While still doing the previous things, because the main job remains law enforcement at federal level. You still have gangs; they don't go away because of 9/11 and so on.
Regular federal crimes.
Has the FBI grown in dimensions significantly since 9/11?
Has the FBI grown in its missions?
No, in dimensions, in size, like manpower.
I believe it has. Again, I've been removed 14 years from that, but I think that they have grown. The field offices, we're still at the same 56. Some field offices have gotten new field offices, new areas that they have to cover with terrorist financing, and then our issues on our southern border, again with this division, have increased because of the cartel influence, etc.
Yeah, and location.
And location. Yes, there are many people that still think that San Antonio is on the border.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there are some that think that. The mission it's increased, and the FBI has never turned anything down. No, we will assist in that. We will go after that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't either, because that means that you don't want responsibility. Also, don't get the resources that you need. So,
I tell my students this too. You can. Everything comes back to budget and politics.
Absolutely. You need to justify your budget, and if you're saying I don't want to do that, well, why do you ask for more money and so on? So, and then you retired formally from from the FBI.
And prior to retiring, I was an adjunct at A&M San Antonio, living on Gillette Street.
You were already an adjunct, yeah.
Yes, and then right after I retired, I went to work at St. Mary's University for 1 year as a teacher in their grad program, and then Dr. Franson made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and I've been here ever since.
In all the good ways again, not the Godfather way. So again, you see the same themes. You have done the practice. Now you're coming to the academia to sort of teach the practice, right? And if you look at if one looks at the courses you're offering, Intro to Intelligence Analysis. There you go. Cooperative Criminal Justice Systems, Comparative Criminal Justice Systems, Border Security Issues, Organized Crime, Crime Patterns and Analysis, Crime Justice Organizations, White Collar Crime, accounting, Law, Justice and Society. And what I'm interested about these courses, they all sound excellent, but some of them you have developed.
Yes.
And which one is your favorite course to teach?
Well, I must tell you, before I tell you that, I developed the intelligence analysis class.
Yes, of course.
Securities issues class, because I worked those areas and I was able to tell them this is what it's like.
Yeah.
But my favorite class, is the ethics class, ethics in the criminal justice system. I give that to the graduating seniors. Everyone's got to go through that class, and I start that class with one thing. My former boss at the FBI, who became one of the assistant executive directors of the FBI, I brought him here a couple of years after I started here, told me, he said, Bob, if it's illegal, if it's immoral, if it's unethical, don't do it. And I start every ethics class the first day with that saying, and I build on that the rest of the semester. So while I enjoy intelligence analysis because it's changing all the time, border securities, oh my God, we could talk hours about that. But the ethics, it's reached a point where ethics is as noteworthy as any other area in criminal justice.
Yeah.
Ethics, because of the discretion that we grant anyone that's in law enforcement or anyone that's in criminal justice system.
Yeah.
They've got discretion, and we strive to have them use it correctly, not misuse it, not abuse it. So the ethics class is a real eye-opener for graduating seniors. It's not a difficult course, but it's an eye-opener.
Yeah, because with power comes with great power comes great responsibility, and great, every choice will have its significant impact.
That's probably my favorite course because they leave here with that fresh on the brain.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I get into CJ in any area of CJ, and there's hundreds of areas, ethics is paramount.
Yeah.
Ethics is paramount.
So, of your students, for those students, what do you think is their favorite course? Meaning subject, not course in terms of how you teach them, but what is the subject that attracts the students at first sight most?
The first two are border securities issues and intelligence analysis.
I thought so.
In fact, I'm very proud of two of the students. One of them, who graduated in 2016, was a marketing major. And he saw that I was teaching an intro to intelligence analysis, and he didn't know me from Adam. And he thought, well, that sounds interesting, so he took it. You know what he's doing now? He is a senior analyst for the Air Force at the Pentagon. I'm very proud of that.
That's
he came from this
that's
university.
exactly the example. Basically, it's the example of is the example you had. You represent this sort of a trajectory of combining different backgrounds and modeling it to the students, and that's exactly what he did. And I think that's also why I wanted to have you as a guest, because it's very important for the students to have this much more flexible view of what they can do, and to be free to sort of be creative with their backgrounds, not loose but creative in terms of combining different a major, a minor, two minors, and so on. And so let's see where it takes me.
Two things. First of all, I always tell my students, sell yourself, but be ready to back it up. But sell yourself.
Exactly.
You've probably done things that you don't realize that they're asking on these questions from these agencies. Sell yourself and back it up. Secondly, I have mentored hundreds of students. I've sat in my office countless hours mentoring students who didn't have a clue about how to even start.
Yeah, exactly.
And I tell them all, come see me anytime. I've got this wealth of experience, and I will gladly pass it on to you.
Exactly, because such jobs seem so far-fetched.
Sure.
And what they need is, just some stepping stones. They're going to find their way, but you need to tell them, hey, here's the yellow brick road. Right. And even if you stray from it, you will go in the right direction.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
I stress to them, watch your background, watch the company you keep, and I will give you some steps as to how to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. And the other student you're very proud of, because you mentioned
I got a student recently, this past semester, that he said, hey, Professor Alonzo, can I use as a reference? I said, sure. He says, well, you're probably going to be getting a call from somebody, an intelligence analysis from the Pentagon. I said, okay, no problem. So that's two that have, one of this reached it, and the other one I think is in the process.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the goal, right? I mean, that's the goal, because you are, especially in criminology, you are teaching, preparing students for real careers. You want them to enter into a real career, into a real practice, whether it is, criminology in the sense of law enforcement of various forms locally, but also federally and so on.
All our cadre here, our criminology and criminal justice cadre, they're outstanding. We've got a wealth of experience in every area. And what we want is for employers to say, you know what, we want to come back here to hire students on this campus because they've got this experience, they've got this knowledge.
Yeah, one thing it is noteworthy about the criminology program that there is the theoretical element, but also there's a wealth of practical experience among the teachers in the department.
We bring countless agencies representatives here to talk to our students for employment opportunities.
Yeah, and just the teachers. The people who teach in the department, your varied backgrounds, I think.
Yes.
That's also my background. So I come from sort of a practical dimension. I used to work in international development and so on before joining the academia.
Yeah.
And for me, this is what gives the the flavor, the juice to to what I do, because it's not fantasy. You're talking about real stuff, and I even when we are analyzing it theoretically, you are analyzing reality. So you always have to sort of keep this balance, keep a toe here, because that's what sort of nourishes your thinking. This is not abstract, these are not abstract subjects. This is what human beings do.
Yeah.
So you learn it by, participating, doing it, and keeping a toe in it. And you also have kept a toe in it in many ways.
Yes, and this is, we let them know this is what to expect, so that you're not caught off guard. This is what you can expect.
And speaking of keeping a toe in it, you keep serving the community in various ways, right? So there's this, what do you call it? Is it a project, a task force? Yeah.
Project Absentis is a nonprofit 501c3 that was developed by a special agent, and it includes many agents and analysts from the Bureau and other areas and academia. And we assist families of missing persons. We try to assist law enforcement with cold cases of families of missing persons. That's the one.
Who comes to you, and how do people find you?
Families will literally come to our website or call the main person who organized it and say, this has been going on for whatever, and immediately that individual who's the director of our agency, our unit, will reach out to them, and again, him being an agent, an investigator, he knows exactly what questions to ask, which way to go, what evidence to look at, and then we're tasked with assisting in any way we can, whether it's financial or surveillance or whatever, and that's how we assist. And we've had some pretty good successes. I would say that I can't speak to exactly what we've done because he keeps those files, and it's strictly confidential between them and the client. But it's a broad group that's getting more broad, and we have people from all over the U.S. that are involved in Project Absentis.
Is this a local project?
It started locally, and now we've got people from all over. You can go to our website, projectabsentis.org, and
I'm going to link it in the description of the video.
Look at the team and what their backgrounds are.
Yeah, so there will be a link to this nonprofit, which, as Robert said, offers support in specialized support and specialized assistance with people with long experience in law enforcement and so on, and investigation with cold cases. What is a cold case?
What is a cold case?
What would be a definition of a cold case? Again, this podcast goes out throughout, so don't count on people necessarily knowing all the jargon. So,
well, a cold case is a case where some agency, some law enforcement agency, some PD has set it aside because there's maybe not enough evidence or not enough resources to work it, because there's other priorities, because every agency has to prioritize. And I'm not saying that missing cold cases are not a priority, but some just don't get solved. And
so absentia, which is from Latin missing, which is a lack of something missing. So this is cold cases regarding missing persons.
That's correct.
Generally speaking, without going into detail, are these missing cases crime-related or not always crime related.
Not always crime related, but many of them are crime related.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
How about the border security course that you created? Of course, if I ask you why, of course, we're here and this is an issue and so on. But I will ask you, what was the impulse of creating this, and what is sort of what do you cover in this course?
Oh my God.
Very briefly, very briefly.
Sure.
Yeah.
We cover about 16 or 17 different border topics,
Okay.
mainly law enforcement types: human trafficking, human smuggling, drugs, weapons, money laundering, public corruption along the border. Those are the main ones that we hit. And it's a lot cartel influence, of course, given the state, or given the fact that Mexico has the issue with the cartels.
Yeah, yeah.
And I won't speak to their ability to control them or fight them or whatever, but
I know it's a factual reality.
It comes across the board.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
you know, that's it's an issue with us.
For
now.
sure, for sure.
And we have law enforcement agencies all along the border that assist, county sheriffs, local PDs, you name it. And there's a big cadre of individuals that are dealing strictly with border security issues. In 2007, I was part of when I was in the State Guard, I was Chief Warrant Officer 4. We did an Operation Wrangler, I believe, 2007, where we literally shut the border down for 10 days, from Boca Chica to about a few miles into New Mexico. And we shut it down, and a multi-federal agency, state, you name it, was assisting in that whole thing. And we kind of cut all crime down for like 10 days along that border. We had the funds to do it. And it made an impact in that area, big time.
And this was just on the American side, right?
Just on the American side, yes.
Have you cooperated with Mexican authorities in that work?
I have not, but I know we have units that do cooperate.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Since we are close to concluding our conversation, it's just we've been talking for more than an hour, or about an hour, so time flew by, which just tells you to how interesting these topics are and your experience. I always, from this perspective of bringing sort of humanizing the academic, and also of bringing practice into the theory, I always want to ask my guests usually about their other interests that are not related to their, as if your job would not be sort of a 24-hour thing. Like, law enforcement was 24 hours, but honestly also as faculty member, when does it really stop, right? It's something that continuously goes on. You think about this job and work on it all the time. But let's say you have free time. And you mentioned that from early on, from the 80s, even back to the 70s maybe, you have been involved with soccer.
Yes.
Soccer in San Antonio, how and why?
My son started playing soccer when he was like 5. And in high school, I dabbled in it a little bit way back when, but it was primarily when my son started playing, I really got interested in officiating. And shortly thereafter, I
Which was the 80s?
This was in the late 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, mid to late 70s is when I started.
But the fact that you had that there was organized soccer playing here in the 70s, I wasn't familiar that.
No, there was very little. Very little.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, very, very little. It was unknown.
So it was basically happenstance almost.
Yes, it was basically unknown.
Yeah.
And one of the individuals who was a state referee at the time, USSF, United States Soccer Federation, asked me, "Hey, Bob, would you like to, look at officiating?" I said,
do some law enforcement
sure.
on the field.
Well,
because it is. I'm sorry, that's what it is.
I officiated for almost 20 years as a United States Soccer Federation State 1 and an NCAA national referee. And I can tell you this, jokingly, but the soccer referee is the last form of dictatorship left on the planet. They have complete control of the game. The game has changed.
Not anymore with VAR.
The game has changed tremendously, and for the better.
Yeah.
And officials have changed tremendously for the better.
Yeah.
I still assess referees, college referees here in the U.S. I'm part of that group here locally, and we assess soccer referees for NCAA. But
it's funny that you were drawn to law enforcement in soccer as well.
I didn't think about that.
Because it is, I'm sorry, that's what it is. I would never do it, for example, but I would do coaching, for example. For me, that's the part that I would like, besides playing.
And the training to be a soccer referee is not easy.
No. It's very difficult.
Because you're dealing with, 22 players that every time you blow the whistle,
Yeah.
half of them hate you,
Yeah.
half of them love you.
And
So
it's
you've gotta
split
deal with
second
that.
decision because you can't,
Absolutely.
you know, blow
You've
the
got
whistle
over
an hour
200
later.
decisions to make in a split second. One of
Exactly.
200 decisions.
And so you got into it because you started liking the sport, or
Yeah, and my
Yeah.
son was involved, and I really got involved in officiating. I really liked it, and I did it successfully for many years, and then I became I used to coach teams as well,
Yeah.
and I became the men's varsity soccer team coach at St. Mary's University.
Okay.
While I was teaching adjunct,
Yeah.
I was a soccer team.
Yeah.
And a few years I did that, we did pretty good. We had
Okay.
a pretty good record.
Well, of course, now soccer is in a whole different position in the United States. I
It's
mean,
changed
yeah,
so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
You can
And there's still
expand.
so much space to grow, an immense. One of the courses I teach is politics and sport, for example, because
Oh.
of my love of sports,
Wow.
and I sort of look at their
Okay.
interaction.
Okay.
So
Mm.
there's so much space to grow for soccer in the United States because the human resources are immense. The system is not yet built to actually find them and grow them and to produce professional soccer players. The system is not adept to that. But because I play, pickup soccer, and I have played it around the country wherever I went, I'm telling you the amount of talent you find on the parks, which is what become from where you find the big soccer stars. The
Yes.
Ronaldinho, the Neymars are from the favelas. They're not from the
Yes,
rich people.
That's right.
And the system here has problems with that, but that's a different
That's a
podcast.
different issue.
So besides soccer, what is another thing that you would do besides?
Other interests I
Yeah.
have? Well, I have a ranch in South Texas, a family ranch that's been in the family since the land grants of 1752, and we're going to keep it that family ranch. I do hunting. I'm a bow hunter.
So south from San Antonio, basically?
Yes, it's in Zapata County, which is 50
Okay.
miles south of Laredo, right on the border.
Yeah.
That's
What
right.
kind of is it basically just livestock?
Not livestock. We have what's called a wildlife exemption, where we keep wildlife
For hunting.
for hunting and just for places where wildlife can thrive.
Okay.
Because seasons are very limited as to when
Yeah.
you can hunt, etc.
Yes.
So we feed year round, we water year round.
Okay.
We do all that. We have bat boxes. We're going to try to get into some bees maybe in this next year. We have stock tanks with fish. We have a lot of issues. I mean, a lot of good things. that we do there.
Yeah.
And another thing I do is I play a lot of poker. I've been trying to get a poker group here. At
Professional
campus.
or
Not
just
professional, but just no, not professional. Just groups, individuals. I've been to the World Series of Poker a few times, and I enjoy it. We started doing that with the FBI back and I'll never forget this. In November of 1999, we started a poker group with the Bureau, and there's still 4 or 5 of us that to this day play once a month. That same core group.
What is it about poker that you found very attractive, very involving?
Well, it's a skill. There's a lot of math in poker. You have to be able to read people. And it's not about odds with the house. In other games, the house has an advantage. In poker, the dealer just provides a service, and the house is not involved. You're sitting there with 9 other people that want to cut your heart out, and you're playing against them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's an exciting game. It's a social game.
Yes.
It's a very, very good social
Is it the social dimension? Is it the intellectual part that attracts you, or
Sure.
both?
Both. Absolutely,
Mhm.
both. Absolutely.
And the financial part?
I don't play,
Yeah, of
some
course
of
not.
these
For
tournaments are incredible.
Yeah.
But at the World Series of Poker, when I go, I'll get into a few of those big tournaments.
Do you attend?
Oh,
Do you
yes.
participate? Oh,
Yes,
nice.
absolutely.
Nice.
Yes.
Vegas or?
In Vegas, yes.
Yeah, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
Been going since 2002 with a group that we go.
That's nice because it's also a way to meet people and sort of,
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely. It's a very social game.
Yeah.
Of course, many times at the World Series, it's a lot of cutthroat, but there's a lot of good people.
Yeah. There's a lot of banter and so on. And finally, as I said, the practical. One of the things that I do in my courses is because I want the students. I'm very keen on being very precise when we study, when we analyze theoretically the political realities, to understand concepts, to be able to explain them with precision. But these concepts are not dry, desiccated, phantasms of our minds, but they need to be rooted in reality, as we said, right, in practice. So one of the ways in which I help students sort of immerse themselves in the richness of the real lived reality of, let's say, politics, I try to find books, articles, movies that are really good, so not some superficial nonsense, that immerse them into that world. So, for example, you know, in my class on federal government right now, they watched, when we were talking about the U.S. founding and the writing of the Constitution, the separation between the colonies and the British government, they watched the first episode of John Adams, right, which is a fantastic TV show, which actually is done tremendously well, historically accurate, showing that these colonies were actually Englishmen. That's what they thought they were. They weren't American. There was no such notion. So it's a very well done, and it shows the richness of that reality. And really, art does that. Art sort of gives us the rich depiction of the reality, which us in words or just concepts would not be able to depict. So this is why my question is, do you have like favorite books or movies that best reflect your lived experience with law enforcement, of whatever, federal level, local level?
Well, John Grisham comes to mind. I love his work.
It's a lot of fun, but is it accurate?
Some of it is accurate, yes, but it goes into more of a lot of the social areas in his books.
And the ethical parts?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, in the ethical part, particularly in the criminal justice system. I like to tell my students to read the books of our forefathers who actually had spy units back then, George Washington, etc. They had individuals who were spying.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of other authors. Television today, you know,
It's a lot, first of all.
there's a lot out there. I would say documentaries are the best thing to look at. Any documentaries dealing with 9/11, with anything that's happened espionage-wise, Robert Hansen, you know, those are the ones I tell them to, you know, take a look at that, because that's reality. That's what happened.
And in terms of your own taste in books, movies, anything, what do you, not necessarily related to the job, just in general?
I love to watch old movies, and
Give me your favorite movie.
Well,
favorite 3 movies.
Well, the best, I think, I like iconic movies. For example, like 13th Warrior. I like Last of the Mohicans. The other one with Tom Cruise.
The Last Samurai?
The Last Samurai. I love that movie. And then, of course, the Top Guns. Those are exciting movies.
Again, the theme is there. The theme is there. How about the classic movies from the black and white movies from the 40s, 50s? Do you like those?
Yeah, Casablanca. I go back to Casablanca. Anything to have to do with World War II. Those old movies.
Do you have a favorite World War II movie?
Gosh, I guess it's the Sands of Iwo Jima.
Okay.
And
Directed by Clint Eastwood. Yeah.
And then D-Day was a good movie also.
Which was an all-star ensemble movie from the 70s. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then I try to stay current with some of the newer movies that are coming up. I don't really look at a lot of the law enforcement TV shows, the series.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of those.
Yeah. The procedurals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Law and Order is interesting because they hit a lot of areas that a student could learn some of the procedures in that.
And let's be honest, a lot of students come to criminology because they love those shows.
Sure. And another thing that really, and I tell my students, you know, whenever they say, well, yeah, we're investigating this crime or whatever, and let's take a look at their financial records, and then the next scene, oh yeah, they've done this and this. No. That does not happen that way. You're waiting weeks sometimes to get those financial records before you start in a case. So that's the one thing.
Due process.
You're not going to get it just like that.
You don't have time for due process in a 40-minute episode.
Yeah.
You know, I can recommend. I'm watching right now a TV show about the FBI. And it's seemingly it's based on real on the real history of the section of the FBI that deals with serial killers, how it was established in the 70s, in the 70s, how it came about, basically.
Behavioral science unit.
Exactly. Yeah. It documents the behavioral science unit, how it was established. And it seems to be based on facts, and it is very. It's not a commercially presented, so it is very attentive to the complexities, to the complexities, the difficulties, the institutional politics, the back and forth. So I warmly actually recommend it. It's on Netflix. Mindhunter, it's called. The name would not make me watch it because it sounds like some cheap thriller. It's actually very carefully crafted. And it also goes into some of what they have done in terms of talking to, uncovering some of the serial killers. But basically, it goes into this whole idea of how do you establish, how do you start such a thing in an institution. So it's fascinating because all the difficulties of doing something new, and also the excitement of doing something new is there.
Many of my students say, I want to get into that behavioral science unit. I said, well, that's good. Nothing wrong with having crim, but you want to get into psychology as well. Because I think that's the bulk of those individuals. They're psychologists.
Exactly. Yeah, so I can recommend that. So, Robert, this was a delight. I'm very happy to share with our listeners and viewers your experience, to share with them your passion for what you do, both what you have done in law enforcement and investigation, and also what you do in the academia. Clearly, you are a good example, a living example of what it means to follow what you are made to do. Because clearly, all of these things I pointed out, you have been following them unerrantly, or inherently, whatever the word is, and that's the secret, right? Of course, you need to get paid, but the point is, inevitably you will sort of fall into the things that attract you most, and that's where you can be successful. And the fact that, again, your trajectory, that success or accomplishment, let me put it this way, is not linear. That you need to be open to opportunities, you need to be ready to change. Your last switch to the academia, if I may, how old were you when you switched to the academia again? 2011.
I was, 14. I was already in my 60s, I think.
There you go.
Yeah,
that is the best concluding word.
Sure.
At any point,
yeah,
you can start something new.
And when my students find out that I'm 75, they're like, there's no way.
Exactly.
So
And I think it is.
thank you.
But no, and I think it is because of the energy that comes from your passion for what you do. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Robert.
Sure, thank you.
And thank you for everyone who watched this episode. I hope you greatly enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in our following episode. Thank you.